Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. As always, we're coming live from the Sirius Star System studios right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope all is well with everybody. So last weekend was, or this past Sunday, I should say, well, it was last weekend, right? It was Mother's Day. So I just wanted to say happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there and wishing them a happy Mother's Day, especially my mom. Mom, I just want to say that, there's no words to describe how I feel, but I just want to say how much I love you, how much you mean to me, and thank you for everything that you've done for me throughout my life. I honestly don't know where I'd be without you. So I'm grateful for you to have you in your life. So I love you and thank you. With that being said, I just realized that this, I think it's May 15th, I think in a few days, it's going to be a blood moon and a lunar eclipse at one. And I just think that's amazing because you guys know I'm into all that stuff. I don't know the exact dates. I think it was. I was scrolling through one of my articles, one of my websites that I read. And that's what they said. So I'm so excited because I love the blood moons. Of course, I love lunar eclipse and everything, but I love blood moons, man. They're so energetic. They're so passionate. They give you so much energy to work with, and I just absolutely love it. So if you have trouble sleeping over the next few days as the full moon's coming in and the lunar eclipse and the blood moon is coming in, you guys know why. So anyways, guys, I'm going to cut this intro short because as always, we got so much to cover, but as always, guys, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, D Live, and our replays, you can check them out on our Facebook page, and we're on everything. So just all right, guys, so let's talk. Last week what we talked about was life lessons and we got into a lot of ideas of why we're going through them or what it is, of what the idea, the definitions are, and just kind of what we're learning, if we're not learning, why we're learning these things. And the main thing that I would like to start with today is I want to talk about wisdom. Because what is wisdom, really? Wisdom, it's simple. Wisdom is the idea of gaining knowledge, right? But what really is that? Like, what does that mean? Because there is a difference between having knowledge and having wisdom, as we talked on last week's show. And so I want to clarify, because the transition of when we're talking about life lessons and we're talking about learning all these different ideas and all these different experiences for us to evolve through our consciousness, what we're really looking at is transforming the idea of knowledge into wisdom, because we don't grow until we understand and we become wisdom. And that's exactly what wisdom is. Wisdom is the idea of understanding. Okay, it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how much information you can recite and how many degrees you are or how many degrees you have. It matters is how much of that information do you truly understand. And I don't mean here. I mean emotionally understand. Because remember, we were talking about the heart portal last week and how the heart is the main focus to where our information comes from and how we're able to travel through and understand ourselves on a greater level. And that's really what wisdom is, because whether people, like I sometimes used to call it emotional maturity, you'll hear that, I am sure, in past podcasts and everything, but that is one of the things that we have to start looking at. So we have to start taking information. If we're taking our life lessons and we're taking these ideas, then we have to be able to take the idea of knowledge and transform it into wisdom. How do we gain this information? How do we take a set of knowledge, or how do we take information, which we call knowledge, and transform it into wisdom? Because like I said, we could read we could read 1,000 books. Like I could sit there and read all those medical. I know you guys can't see it because the screen's in the back. But I could sit there and read all the medical books. I could sit there and read everything I want, and I have knowledge because I've read it. But the idea of understanding when it becomes wisdom is the idea of experience. And this is something that we have to understand when it's coming into our life lessons. Because when we have this idea of, okay, I'm incarnating here, I'm coming into life, I have all this information that I'm coming in with, I have these life lessons, I have these experiences coming, and I always say that now converting knowledge into wisdom is like playing with a puzzle. Okay, you take, at first you have all these pieces, and you look at them and you sit there and you say, oh my God, I got like 500 pieces or 1,000 pieces, or for you really go-getters, maybe 10,000 pieces. And I have all these pieces laid out in front of me. What do I do with them? I have all this information. I know that I have this puzzle in front of me, but what is it that I'm supposed to do? Well, we know that common sense says, I'm supposed to put these things together. I'm supposed to make a picture out of it, because once I make this picture out of it, then I get to enjoy it, I get to understand it, I get to look at it, and I get all this more information. And so that's the way I want us to look at how we're evolving through our life lessons, is how we're gaining wisdom through knowledge. Everything that we experience in life is like putting a puzzle together. Whether you like crossword puzzles, whether you like actual puzzles or Rubik's Cube type puzzles, everything is like putting a puzzle together. And the most people don't understand that when things are coming into their life, it's for them to figure out. But the reason why many of us don't gain knowledge, why we don't transition from wisdom, why we don't transition from knowledge to wisdom, is for the very fact that we put too much faith in these ideas, like a god, a goddess, a higher self. We rely on too many people to give us the answers. We instead of actually trying to figure out, we go right away to Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you use, and we try to get the information rather than understand the information. And this is what we do in our lives. The people who actually try to figure things out gain wisdom. It's not that some people are smarter than others and they can decode things faster than others. It's just that most people who actually have the wisdom put emotional effort into it. They put that energy into it so that they can understand what it is they're experiencing. And that kind of takes us to this idea of our life lessons. If we're not understanding our life lessons, then doesn't it always seem like we're repeating our life lessons? And it's not like a universe or karma or whatever, or God is sitting there and, pointing its finger at you and saying, you did terrible, you failed that lesson, you're going to do it over and over and over. And that we have such a backwards view of the way we view life. And that's because most of us live unconsciously. We don't truly understand why we're here. We don't truly understand what's going on. And many of us, we don't want to. As long as we're engulfed in our sports and we get our instant gratification from buying stuff and making money and success, most of us are fine. And we haven't put the idea of, hey, I'm not here for money. I'm not here for love. I'm not here for these things. I'm here for me to grow. And everything around me, relationships, friendships, things I go through, things I learn, my job, is all supposed to teach me stuff. And so a lot of times we end up repeating our lessons because we haven't understood that our ideas are supposed to transform us into growth. And until we understand that, it's kind of like school, right? You don't fail a lesson. You don't fail this idea. And I don't know, I can't speak for any other country except for America, but the idea of failure, America is built on the idea of success, but it's also, we have built ourselves and, well, if you're not this way, then you're a failure. And sadly, we have become this idea that that success is means, hey, we're having a good life, we're doing all these things, and if we're doing something and we're re-experiencing something, we don't do well in school, then we're just going to repeat it, and that's our punishment. And we have to detach from that idea of thinking, because there is no such thing as punishment. There is just experience. It's just the experience of self reflecting in itself so it can learn. And until some lessons, what we call repeating lessons, until we understand them fully, it will come at us many different ways, because it's our job to put those pieces of the puzzle together. And and a lot of times we don't want to. We take things personally. We get upset. We get it. We get angry. Someone did this to us, as we were talking about on last show. This person did this to me. This person hurt me. This person cheated on me. This person was mean to me. Whatever. Or I did this to them, and I did. Whatever it is. And then we repeat that cycle, or it appears like we repeat that cycle. And it's not really a cycle that we're repeating. It's the idea of consciousness. It's saying that, hey, I'm here to learn these pieces. I'm here to learn certain structures in my evolution. And until I understand these, I cannot move on to a more, and I don't want to use the term advanced, but I cannot move on to a greater understanding of who I am. Because remember that everything in our life is meant for us. It's not meant for anybody else. We are here experiencing. And even though you and I are the same exact consciousness, we're the same exact person, and that here on the third dimensional plane, we are supposedly different people because we see things with separation. And so that separation, that illusion, makes us feel like we're trapped in something. We're trapped in this idea that if, that something's punishing us, that something's out to get us, and all I'm doing is having bad luck because I'm repeating the same lesson over and over. And I think last week I told you that in order for us to understand these lessons, we have to be able to not take things personally. Because the moment we take things personally, we take the idea and we grab onto it. Like, so many people will say, well, I'm an American and every other country is just second to us, or I'm this way and everything else, or I do this and this is the best over this, or this truly is. And we take the idea and we plant ourselves to that idea because it makes us feel a false sense of purpose. And our life lessons are a lot of times too painful the way we view things because we've taken them purposely. And so what we'll do is we subjectify ourselves to the emotional imbalance that we create because that idea hasn't let go. So the biggest question that I want to ask is that then with what I'm saying is, are we really repeating our lessons? Because maybe it's just the fact that we're just holding on to that. We're just holding on to that idea. And until we understand that idea that we've created that to make us evolve, we're just going to keep attracting that type of energy to us. Because as we know, we are vibration, and whatever we send out, it's not like we get back ×3 or karma comes back to harm, but we vibrate, we attract to the vibration that we are. So if you're a very low vibration, you're not going to attract somebody that's very high vibration or middle vibration. If you're angry and you're feeling, and you're a victim and you're feeling, like you beat yourself up all the time or whatever it is, or you're sad, depressed, and those are the people, those are the situations that you're going to bring to yourself. And so it's not really the fact that you're repeating that idea or you're repeating that all the time. It's the fact that you have to learn to get yourself out of that vibration so that you can take this information and say, wow, this information made me here. And while I was here, I kept attracting all that information to show me that I need to raise my vibration, that I need to learn what this vibration is, and then raise it so that I can attract new life lessons. A lot of people will stay in the low, dense vibrations because they feel that that is where life is supposed to be. We ask ourselves all the time, well, hey, what is life about? What are these things that we're supposed to be doing? Why am I here? but we don't ask ourselves really like, hey, like, what is this lesson supposed to bring to me? How can I grow my consciousness? Because remember, someone who is unconscious doesn't recognize consciousness. It's like the old saying, I see it all the time. People who are, people who are asleep or don't know that they're asleep. And of course, people will say mean things, like sometimes they'll say, oh, dumb people don't know they're dumb. I always go one step further. Angry people don't know they're angry, but these are the ideas that keep us in those nodes, that keep us trapped in those ideas of separation, because it's really not about, whether we have relationships that are repeating or lessons that are repeating. It's really not about, oh, I'm going to keep repeating this, like I said, as a punishment or until I learn something. And yes, part of that's true, but it's really, what vibration are you going at? What vibration are you attracting? Are you pulling in? Because each person here, will resonate at a different vibration. Each one of us go through waves. Remember how we were talking about in past podcasts, where I was saying that everything in life is like a rhythm. Like if you listen to your heartbeat, it goes doom doom, like, yeah. But everything in life is a rhythm, and so your life will go in a rhythm as well. So where you're at today, you'll attract a certain type of people, and then maybe tomorrow or the next day, or a week from now, 2 weeks, or a month, 6 months from now, and that you'll attract different people depending on where your vibration level is. So everything has cycles to them, and it's our job to recognize in life lessons where cycles are, because cycles help us remind ourselves and keep us in this idea that, hey, not only am I here to learn about myself, not only am I here to grow and figure things out, but I'm also here to, as I'm evolving through myself, I'm also here to take time down. I'm also here to push up and take time down. And it just goes up and down, up and down. And we have to learn to evolve to understand that. So if we look, as I was saying, if we take the word wisdom and we say, okay, well, Miss Raina, I have all this knowledge. You say that in order for us to transform it into wisdom, we got to be able to have emotional understanding. We got to be able to understand specific information of these experiences so that we can grow. But if once we understand that, then a lot of times what we do is we get trapped in the idea that this information is at its utmost peak. So what I mean by that is that there's no other information that this idea can bring to us. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that we often make in our evolution, is because we feel, well, hey, you know what? I have this wisdom, I learned this, and there's nothing else that can teach me. But in order for us to truly become wise, in order for us to truly evolve to wisdom, we have to be able to experience this information in multiple different ways. Because if we just see, as I said last time, if we just see one piece of the pie, if we just see one idea, then we only know one sliver of it. We don't know the many possibilities. And so for us to become wisdom, we have to expand our consciousness and become open and accepting. We have to become accepting to new ideas, new ways, change. We have to be able to transform ourselves with each year, every 6 months, every time there's a new idea, something happens. But we don't. Many of us feel that because we've learned something, that's all there is to know. But each lesson can provide us with an infinite amount of wisdom if we just take and break it down. All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. And on my break, I just chewed up a bug. I guess a bug fell in my water. And I didn't know, and I drank. I was like, what? And I chewed on it. I was like, what is this? And oh, I'm just so grossed out. But anyways, let's get back to, to life lessons. See, the universe loves to play jokes on you any way it can. All right, so with this information, we have to transform the ideas of what we thought it was, because that is vital. Because to understand the information that we have, well, what did we think it is? What lesson did we think it was? Like, and most of the time, we're going to say, hey, well, I thought it was a punishment. I thought it was against me. I thought this person was doing something to me. And as I've said many times in our in the in the show, is there's nothing happening to you. It's happening for you. No matter how horrific it may seem to our human eyes, and that is happening for you. Everything that happens in life happens for you. And even, trust me, I've had lives where I've been killed. I've had lives that I've been raped. Had lives that I've had some, died in wars many times. And at those times, yes, that seems horrific. And it's like, yeah, that's really happening for me. But believe it or not, yes, it is. Because we have to revisit that. Through karma, we have to be able to understand and pull that information from another past life or from earlier in that life and bring it back to a whole. Because there's things that you may be learning now that you've had maybe 5,000 years ago. That maybe you've had there's a gap of 5,000 years and you've had maybe 4,000 lives in that time. And all of a sudden, you have to be able to bring that information through. And so what was that idea to you? What was that experience to you at that time? And now that I'm looking at something a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, what is that information mean to me now? How can I transform this information? How can I change this information and see things from another perspective so that I can see myself in every valuable lesson? That is one of the biggest helping ideas to learning about life lessons, is transforming the idea of what we thought it was to what we are perceiving now and what we will perceive in the future. Yes, there is no past or future. There's only in the present. But to understand in the third dimension that we feel that we have time and space, that's what I mean. So, our lessons are something that once we transform into, they don't go away. A lot of times people will say, well, Miss Raina, I just want to forget this, or I just want to let it go. And I hear this all the time. I know this is a conscious show. We're not spiritual. We're not religious. But I hear this all the time by people that, well, Miss Raina, I just want it to go away, or I just want to let it go, let it go, let it go. And we don't ever let anything go. Every bit of information, everything we experience while we're here, if we have 10 billion lives, we hold on to all that information while we're here. And even in the universe as consciousness, because we are everything that we experience. That is who we are. We are all the possibilities of our experience. Because in order for us to ask ourselves and figure out who we are, we need to experience everything, all the possible outcomes that we're doing. And that's what we're really trying to understand. So if you have a lesson that you're trying to get through and you're trying to, as I would say, let go or move on from, and then one of the first things that we need to be able to do is stop trying to move on from it. Stop trying to let it go, because understand that this information is brought to you no matter how painful it is, like I said, to help you evolve. Because trying to let it go is a rejection. It's saying, well, I have this life lesson. I don't like this life lesson. I don't like what's going on. This made me feel bad. This made me feel uncomfortable. I became angry. It makes me sad. But those are all rejections. Because remember, our emotions aren't real. It's just information. We only use this idea of emotion, which is information, vibration, so we can experience what it feels like here on the third dimension. If we don't have this experience, if we don't have the emotional capabilities, well, then then what is the good? What good is it? Because it's like watching a movie. If you were to watch 1,000 movies, man, you could sit there and say, wow, that movie was great. But you would never actually understand the experience of those movies, like the characters, like as if it was a real life, because you've never lived it. And so stop trying to let go of things. Stop trying to move on from things. Accept the fact that this has happened and say, hey, you know what? This happened. Yes, I may not like it. Yes, it made me feel uncomfortable. Yes, I'm angry about it, or I'm sad about it and I'm depressed about it. Yes. But then we have to change our shift. We have to change our shift into understanding, again, what this information is. Let's be subjective about the light lessons. Let's sit there and look at it and say, hey, well, okay, the first question is why am I experiencing it? Why have I brought this lesson into myself? Why has this lesson been brought into me by myself? Because, as you evolve through consciousness, and I know a lot of people have a hard time believing this, but as you evolve, you really realize that you have created everything that you've ever experienced. And there is no God passing things down. There's no universe passing things down. There is no higher self passing things down. It is you that has created these ideas and have brought them into yourself as a reflection. So I ask myself, hey, Miss Raina, why is this in my life? Why did I bring this into my life right now? What is it that I'm experiencing? And at the end of the result, I got to answer, what is this teaching me? What am I supposed to learn? What is the specific lesson that is supposed to mean? Because if everything is meant to teach me, well, then I must break it apart. And the first thing I have to do is accept it. Okay, this is in my life. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to run away from me and snap my fingers and magically disappear and magically, it doesn't do that. And so stop trying to let something go and accept it into your life. Accept it. Have you ever been in a relationship or friendships or anything, and I tell this to people, and hey, I've even gone through it even recently, where there's things about people you just don't accept, or things about life you just don't accept. And the minute you shift that consciousness to accepting and saying, hey, you know what, it is what it is, I'm going to start accepting this, all the emotional aspect goes away. Why? Because you're no longer fighting the information. Everything in the world is harmonious. I was sitting outside with Caleb the other day, I think it was yesterday, and we were just sitting outside and watching, and just connecting to the earth and just understanding, like listening to the wind, the trees, just watching the clouds. It was just the most beautiful day outside yesterday. And in that moment, you could just see and experience everything that was happening. You could feel the earth because the earth is you. You can experience all this information because you realize that everything is perfect. No matter what we experience, it is only in our perception that isn't. Because if you look around the world, the universe, everything does what it needs to do when it needs to do it, and it's always perfect. So our perception of an idea also has to change. Once we accept it, once we say, hey, this isn't going away, I'm gonna sit here and try to learn it, then the next thing that we have to do is change the perception of it. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop viewing this because I don't want to be emotional about this. I don't want to be angry about this. I don't want to be these things. So what is it that I have to do? Well, if I want to remove emotion from it because our emotions aren't real, then I need to understand the data that's coming into me. I need to understand this vibration in order for me to meet it, so that I can gather the information. It's not as easy as saying that, but at the same time, it's not as hard as you think. It's just, are you willing to give up the emotional chaos that you like so much? Because we're all addicted, right? We can all say that all of us have an addiction. All of us have an addiction to something, but 99% of us, 99% of the world are addicted to our emotions because we don't understand them. And because we don't understand them and we're addicted to them, we become slaves to us. And so every little thing that we experience reminds us of something. We pull associations because that's the way the brain works. We pull through associations, and everything is against us, everything hurts us, everything reminds us of something, and we shy away from so many different things in life. So many different things. So if I want to find out, if I'm going to evolve and I'm going to say, I'm going to change my perception of this, then what is the purpose of this, and what is the mission of this thing? And what do I mean by purpose and mission? Well, if every experience has a purpose, and it has a purpose why it's here, then the mission is what it's going to bring me. How am I going to use it later, or how am I going to use this experience? How am I going to transform this purpose into a mission so I can take this information and evolve with it? So we have to transform that. Once we understand that, we sit there and we say, hey, I got this information, I got this lesson, I'm changing my perspective. And now I have to ask myself, in order for me to change my perspective and let go, I have to recognize its purpose. Okay, this purpose is, and it could be many different purposes, because not all lessons are straightforward. And that's one of the reasons why so many of us really don't want to put in the effort, is because we want things easy. In our society today, we want a lot of things easy. We don't want to put in the work. We don't want to put in the effort that we have to put in. And so we want things fast. Most people don't want to wait. There's fast food around here. People start honking the horns if they have to wait 2 minutes in the drive-through. We have Amazon now. Nobody wants to go out. And so we don't want to put in the effort. Why should we have to put in the effort when we got the internet right here, and we got everyone everything has to be so fast and done? And so our purpose is to understand the lessons. Our purpose is to see the information and the lessons. And our mission is to carry out those lessons in evolution, carry out those lessons in consciousness and growing in self. How can I apply this to myself? How can I sit there and take this information that once maybe caused me depression, sadness, grief, whatever it is, and evolve it so that I can turn it into strength, so that I can turn it into something that is meaningful? Everything that we've experienced always has some meaning. There is nothing in this world that we don't experience, no matter how small, that doesn't have some type of meaning. We might not put as much effort into it if it doesn't bother us emotionally, or if it doesn't really, usually that's when we put a lot of stuff into it, is when it bothers us emotionally. But sometimes we may not even understand the lessons. Sometimes lessons come in so small and so minute that we may not even realize that this is part of a lesson until it builds up. It's not always that life is going to smack us around and just beat us up and say, hey, here we are, surprise, this is us. But what we have to understand is that a lot of little things contribute to our understanding. Right now that we're listening to this show, there's a lot of things I'm saying, and yeah, I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit here and there, but there's information is everywhere, and it doesn't matter if you're listening to this show or you're turning on the internet, you're turning on TV, you're going outside. It's all information, and all the information is equally important. But because of our limited perception of life, and because we don't understand, what this information is, a lot of times, unless it's emotional, that we don't give it time. And that's usually when a lot of little things build up to something big. We talk about a lot about in the past about how when the body gets diseased, I don't like to use the word balance, because there's not really such a thing as balance. But when we evolve, and we stay versus when we stay stagnant, those ideas of not understanding will will hurt us into evolving that idea. And we have to be able to realize that this information is that. All right, guys. So I just lost my train of thought completely. I had a thought for you guys, and I don't know. Just sometimes I just popped out of my channel, popped in, and I was like, all right, search for that information. See, guys, it always happens. I'll make it up to you guys. I promise. So if every lesson is unique, if every lesson is has a uniqueness, because they do. They are catered to each individual person. And yes, some things have a universal grand scale because in the scheme of things we are universal. But otherwise, we look at it and we say, well, a lot of things are personal. So what does that mean? So if we line up, as I said before, 100 people, and we do this, we say, oh, 100 people have had this experience. It's unique to each person, because every single person has their own experience. There's a different way of experiencing it, even though it might be there. And like I could give to toxic relationships, abuse, depression, anger. Like if if people fighting all the time, it's personal. So everything that we have to understand is individually tailored to where we are at our perception. And this is key to understanding our life lessons, because we kind of gravitate to where we think, oh, hey, I've had these experiences, you've had these experiences, okay, great, let's be friends. We think alike, we're similar, we've had these, and a lot of people bond. But when you really start talking to people, yeah, there's a lot of things that may be similar, but even in those similarities are differences. And why there are differences is because, like I just said, is based on where our consciousness is, where the limitation of our consciousness is. Each point of consciousness, each point of the limited consciousness is to help us bring an understanding where we're at. You can't. And my biggest example of that is trying to understand. Like, if you're in third grade, you're not going to understand what a fifth grader does, because you haven't had the experience. You haven't gone through third grade yet. You haven't gone through fourth grade, etc. If you're in eighth grade, you're not going to understand what someone in high school, because you haven't been through high school. And so, even though it's school and you can relate, well, hey, I've had math, you've had science, I've had science, and that the experiences that each individual is going to go through that. And so I want you guys to understand that in this experience, in this understanding of the life lessons, is something that is take out the unique parts. Try to find out what part it is actually different than what your friends are experiencing, because there's some key information in there for you. What is the key information? Well, in order for us to do that, remember how I started giving you steps a little bit ago about, go this, do this, and that's one of the things that we have to look at as well. Once we start changing our perspective, okay, well, and changing it from purpose to mission, what information, what uniqueness, what stands out to me? Because what stands out to me is really what's going to bring me what I need to do. All right, guys, we'll be right back after these messages from I Am Evolution.
The human experience is changing, and consciousness is evolving into something higher than any of us could ever imagine. As we transform into more sentient beings, a new world of connected consciousness is taking place. Welcome to I Am Evolution, the movement in human development that transforms the human experience into a deeper consciousness through perspective and duality. Are you ready to be a part of the next stage in human evolution? Call I Am Evolution today to schedule your appointment at 561-318-0006. That's 561-318-0006. Or email us at iamevolution@protonmail.com.
All right, everybody, we are back for the last part of the show. And I don't know, just sometimes you just speaking, you're channeling and everything, and you just lose your connection like that. I don't know how many of it happens to you if you're ever out public speaking or doing reading or doing whatever you need to do. But yeah, every once in a while, just sometimes I'll be speaking, I'll be in my channel, I'll lose it, and my mind gets wiped. And and then I have trouble. I'm like grasping for straws, trying to figure out, hey, what was I just talking about? But But all right, guys. So being, find the unique part of each lesson, because everything has something that's catered to you. Everything that has something of the idea that is directed towards you, so that, because that's going to help you understand something. There are concepts I may talk about that some of you may understand, and there's concepts that people don't understand. It doesn't make that the information is different. The information, at one time I have not understood certain information, and as I evolve through everything, I understand information, and then as I keep evolving through everything, I will gain more of an understanding of even the same stuff. But I need to understand what is happening at that moment, and those unique little pieces will help me understand who I am in that in that information. So the mindset, one of the things that I really want to express to you, and I know that we're talking about changing the perception, is that we have to be able to be willing to make sure that our mindset changes. We have to be able to really want to change the way we perceive life. Our life lessons, yes, are about growth. We evolve through that, but are we willing to be open enough to change? Because that in itself will tell us how much that we're going to learn from the actual information. If many of us want to be closed-minded, we don't want to see these things, then we are going to not gather that information. That information is going to kind of stagnate, sort of, and that information and our unwillingness to change, our unwillingness to grow, is going to keep our vibration very low. It's going to keep our vibration in that, I always call it the victim and self-loathing and anger, and that, one of the things that I am big on recently, and I'm not big on social media, so I don't know why I like it, well, I do know why I like it, but, the Facebook now has these reels, these short little clips of videos, and a lot of them I really like because they got some cute animals on there, and they got some really funny stuff, and some comedians, and I love that stuff, and just some people just trying to spread knowledge and everything, and I just soak up that information. But there's also a lot of videos on there of people fighting and people causing accidents and drama and all this stuff, and those seem to be really popular for some reason. And the mindset has to be like, what am I attracted to? Because what I'm going to be attracted to is really where I'm thinking and really where I want to be. Because when we're trying to understand life lessons, we have to understand that everything that we're experiencing is our choice. So if we choose to watch things that are dramatic and drama filled and fighting and very low vibration, then we choose to stay in that vibration. If we choose that we're going to go out there and try to, and connect to things that are, about love and compassion and stuff, then we're going to, our mind is going to start raising that vibration and trying to figure out other unique things. Because remember, we are what we think about ourselves. So everything in your life is the exact copy of what you think of yourself. And I love these videos. I really do. I get on it and I'm like a little 16-year-old girl all over again on Facebook, just watching all these videos. And I skip over so many of them because I'm not into all that, but I love the animals. But our mindset has to be willing to be adaptable to life. If we're not adaptable to life, then we don't change, we don't grow, we're always going to punish ourselves. We're always going to see ourselves as a victim. We're never going to learn any of the information that we need to learn. We're always going to have this limited way of thinking. That's why so many of us rely on a God, or say karma's out to get us, or, oh, universe, please bless us, or angels, please that, because we are unwilling to evolve by what we're taught. Yes, our conditioning as a child sets us up for who we are as an adult, but at the same time, if as an adult we don't recognize the choices that we have in everything, then we never evolve to anything more than what we are now. And that is something that I think that in all honesty, minus all the stuff I said, just the mindset of the willingness to be adaptable. Because I'm going to tell you this, you're not meant to learn everything. You're not meant to know everything. And a lot of times, you're not even meant to know everything about that specific life lesson, maybe for like 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 lives. Sometimes little pieces of information come in at different times, different points, because like I said, because the true form of karma is, hey, I'm going to start this journey on this idea of this information. And this information is going to start here at life 1. And then I'm going to have that information, me experience this information for a couple of lives. And then maybe at life 20, then all of a sudden it'll come back and I'll re-experience it, because after I've had all this experience, I can understand this information just a little bit more. And then at life 30, I'll jump and I'll expand. And then life 100, it'll come up and it'll finally be complete. That is what we call karma. That is the true form of karma. And that is the true form of life lessons. So changing our mindset and our limited way of thinking also allows us to say, hey, you know what? I may not be meant to understand this. It may not be in the cards for me to understand all this information. And there's a purpose for it, and that's okay. You have to be able to be willing to let that go. If there's something that you just can't seem to get it off your mind, then let go of trying to understand it. Sometimes the best way that we can evolve through understanding is just, and I literally mean just try to stop thinking about it for a while. Just try to let it go, in the sense of, hey, you know what? Right now I'm putting too much pressure on myself because I'm trying to get to an understanding. And maybe there's something inside you that you haven't, maybe there's a mindset that you have. There's a perception that you haven't recognized. And because you haven't recognized that, you're unable to see the actual truth of this lesson. And so, yes, we're all limited. As long as we come incarnated here, we have a very limited way of thinking. And that's done by design. That's done by us so that we could evolve through that. So sometimes even me, I'll sit there and I'll say, okay, I'm banging my head through the wall trying to understand. And then I just have to take a deep breath and say, okay, Miss Raina, for right now, I'm going to let it go and just put it on the back burner. I still want to face this. I still do, because I want to challenge this. But right now, sometimes it's best just to step away and just try to reset and try to regain what it is. So I'll go and I'll meditate and I'll go out places. And I'm not saying go out to the bars or anything. I'm just saying, like, I'll go out walking at the park. I'll take Nira to the dog park. I'll go to the beach and just really reset myself. And then I'll start from square one, and I'll say, okay, let's take this step one. Step one is, hey, this is a challenge in my life, and I really do go piece by piece by piece. And without sitting there and saying, okay, I got to find out the purpose now. I really got to figure this out. I got to understand what this means. I just say, okay, what do I feel from it? What is my mindset? When I sit there and I think about this idea, what does my feeling say and what does my mind say? What is it, and what limitations am I putting up? Okay, well, I don't understand it. I feel this way. Well, what information, what data comes through with what I'm feeling? Because that is, like, again, how we understand the idea. So what information am I feeling through this? And when we're able to break it down, that's why, even though, like I said a million times, emotions aren't real, but they allow us to grasp the information that we need so we can understand these life lessons. It allows us to open that door and evolve through limited thinking. But the main thing that we have to have is somebody is that idea of just saying, hey, you know what, I really want to change my mindset. I really want to evolve. Because I don't know how many times people say they want help and then they find an excuse not to do it, or they do it for like a day or two or a couple days or maybe a week. They see a therapist or they see someone, even me, for like a session or two, and then you never hear from them again. That's because in truth, they really don't want to evolve. They don't want to change their minds. And those life lessons will keep them in that cycle, that spiral, until they really say, you know what, I really want to change this. We trick ourselves all the time because because most of us live unconsciously, like I said, and like I said in the last show, when you live unconscious, you live in survival mode. Everything is about survival. If somebody's coming to get me, somebody's going to beat me up, something's going to happen, I need to get. And so that type of thinking, as we know, if we look at the way our brain works, when we are in survival mode, fight or flight, just on a physiological level, it shuts down our rational thinking. We can't think. Our frontal lobe says, hey, our prefrontal cortex says, hey, right now we're in fight or flight. And sometimes just taking that back and understanding, hey, I'm tricking myself right now because I feel emotional and I really don't know what to do about it, and I'm focused on all my emotions, and I can't get past that. I'm in survival mode. And so sometimes if we can't get past something, just recognize the fact that you're playing the survivor, that you're playing the unconscious role, that you're playing, well, I'm tricking myself into thinking I'm understanding this lesson, that I'm learning this information, that I have the knowledge, I'm converted to wisdom, but I'm really afraid that I don't have it. I'm really afraid that if I actually dig down deep into this information, that it's going to bring up all that information. It's going to bring back all that feeling again. But remember that like metaphorically speaking, like when we don't acknowledge stuff and we put things to the side, or some people say, oh, I push it way down there. Just think about just packing a bunch of stuff down in some place and just pushing it down, and then just putting a cap on it. And then until you open up the cap or something, it all comes pouring out because all that pressure is relieved. Well, absolutely. Our life lessons are only painful when we play the victim to it, when we're unconscious. When we are not, when we trick ourselves into thinking that we've evolved through it, but we're too afraid to look at it, then that is two different stories. So we have to realize that we haven't looked at it in that sense. So our ego will play a big well, we only got a couple minutes. Our ego will play a big part in that idea because our ego, again, wants to keep us safe. Even though it's a false sense of security, it wants to keep us safe in the sense that, hey, we're going to, let me chase these things. Let me be distracted. Let these, I want to chase relationships. I want to chase money. I want to chase fame. I want to chase all these things. I want to build up this false image because I don't want to look at this. And even in that sense, it's a lesson in itself because that is teaching us, because that is going to teach us that we've chased all this stuff. Man, we've had a good life. We've had all this stuff. Hey, look at me. I was a total success. We build up this false image. We build off all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, at the end of our life, we look back and say, wow, I had all this stuff. But, I had no real friends. I'm afraid to be by myself. I still don't like, spending time with myself. I had terrible all these different things. And we look back and say, well, it didn't get us anything because our ego kept us surviving. So I really want us to, and I'm going to end the show here in a minute. I really want us to understand that life lessons they don't have to be so terrible if we just start to understand that, one, they're working for us and they're building us to evolution. That we, at one point, yes, we are unconscious, we are living unconsciously so that we can grow through something, so that we can grow through these ideas to become conscious. It's not a spiritual thing. It's not a religious thing. This is how life is. We are all unconscious, and that's why we attach ourselves to these ideas. If you hate people, if you hate all this, it's because you're living unconscious. You're living to this idea that all these things are bad for you, or all these things are going to be out there, but you're not learning the greatest lesson of life, and that's self. Self is the epitome of understanding consciousness, because once you understand self, you understand why you're here, you understand information, you convert your information to wisdom, and you become who you need to be. All right, everybody. I think I'm going to stop here. I'm a little dizzy today for some reason. I don't know why. I just started like the last 20 minutes. I started getting really dizzy. So I apologize if the show was a little rough today. But all right, guys. Yeah, I'm going to end. So if you want to follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation, our YouTube is the same. Visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for the newsletter to receive special VIP access and hidden shows and special guest offers. We're going to have a bunch of special guests coming up over the next few weeks and if you have any questions, email us at transcendentaltransformations, that's plural, @gmail.com. If you enjoyed tonight's show or any of the shows, please share them. The only way we can get out and help and grow consciousness in this world is for you guys helping us out. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.